My name is Daphne St. Clair Ferguson, and I am so excited to be asking the important questions here. What the heck is Canadian theatre? Now, if you could you just introduce yourself and your show to our lovely audience here?
My name is Matti McLean. I am a creator in Toronto, and my show this year is called A Canadian Explains Eurovision to Other Canadians.
That is wonderful. And I think, why explain Eurovision? What's the goal there?
Well, most people don't know what it is. So that's why I feel like this is something that's big, it's loud, it takes over the entire world pretty much. It is something that is so far removed from us, but it's such a cultural touchstone that most people here are at least aware of it in some way. So why not stand in that gap and be like, here is something that's awesome and terrible and great and fantastic and fun and silly and big and loud and musical, and it's bigger than the Super Bowl. It is the biggest entertainment event in the world, and you know nothing about it, so you should.
Gotcha. And so why explain it to Canadians specifically? What's the draw there?
Well, I had to cancel my American, so I felt like it was appropriate to pivot somewhere else. The reason why I thought that it was fun to explain to Canadians is because we have a lot of cultural shared history, and there's a lot of musical threads that tie directly to Eurovision, specifically that connect to Canada. And so I think it's nice to kind of bring more of a hometown perspective on that. Be like, this is something that we are a part of, we have been a part of, we will be a part of. So let's bring that cultural thread forward and say this is important.
So it started as a Canadian explaining Eurovision to Americans. So have you had to change any parts of the show, or do you keep the show the same?
I can use bigger words now. That's the key. I think that's important. No, I feel like a lot of it holds up. It's just when you're explaining things to Americans, you also have to explain a lot of Canadian context. So now I can kind of let go of that Canadian context and be like, hey, I'm explaining this from the perspective of someone from Northern Ontario, which is different than Toronto. So we still have those different we still have those cultural differences while still having the same relevant touchstones.
So what would you say is the main difference between, let's say you're taking it to a rural town in Canada versus Toronto? What are those differences there?
I can charge more here. No, I would say, honestly, the show itself is pretty much the same. I feel like a lot of Canadians coming from a smaller town background, I feel like we have very similar histories, we have very similar shared ideas, and to kind of carry that forward into this new format, into this new show, I don't really see a difference between small town, big town. We do have differences, but at the same time, we all have like the innate Canadianisms that make us unique.
Wonderful. And we talked a little bit about funding there, charging a little more.
Yes.
Do you imagine, is it more challenging to get funding in Toronto versus a small town, or what's your perspective on funding in Canada?
You can get funding.
I don't know. This is what I'm trying to learn. I've talked to so many people, and so many people are confused about the same thing. So I'd love your perspective on it if you have it.
I'd love some money. Just anything. Really, let's anything.
So we're desperate for funding. Here's what I'm learning.
Yeah, I think most yes, yeah.
And why do you think that is?
I would say, well, I feel like the arts are something that is often overlooked. It's something that's so integral and important to culture, community, to building. But the perspective on arts has shifted to an idea of being like, oh, this is something superfluous. This is something that people don't value or don't fund or support in the same way that they used to, or even that they are challenged to. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that like the arts part of these things are actually some of the most important things, because it creates community, creates vibrancy, creates interest, it creates tourism. The more you fund into the arts, the more you actually reap into that area, the more you'll be able to sow, and it encourages things like education, it encourages things. It is something very healthy. Healthy places support their arts, and places that aren't healthy don't. So that's my perspective.
Right. And so bringing Eurovision back to this, we're saying it's bigger than the Super Bowl. It's bigger than these largely funded things. The Super Bowl makes a lot of money, has a lot of money, and I'm sure so does Eurovision. So how is your perspective on Eurovision going to elevate the arts in Canada?
Well, what's interesting is that we do have connections to this contest overseas, which I think is great. But it's also something that stands for, well, the beautiful dichotomy of Eurovision is that it stands for things like peace and unity and love and harmony And it was originally created after the World War as an attempt to get countries to work together and to build something culturally as an ensemble. The irony there is that now it's really trying to struggle to find its own footing because it claims not to be political and tries to back away from statements like inclusion of Israel, Russia, inclusion of other places, funding. It's really struggling to find its identity. And I think that that's something that's fascinating to not only examine, but to also present in like a very unbiased, well, as much as biased as I am, I do love Eurovision. I think it's so much fun. It stands for something great, but it's also very hypocritical. It also has a lot of things in there that do need to be criticized, and I do, and I bring them up. And it's the beautiful dichotomy, the beautiful idea of being both non-political, but at the same time, it can't be non-political based on what it stands for in today's day and age. So it's a great flag for the LGBTQ plus community. It's a great shepherd for artistic rights throughout the country. It's very progressive in many ways, and at the same time, just held back by its own ideology. It's a weird dichotomy.
Right, and you're talking about it's between identities. Do you find that Canada also reflects that in its own art as well?
I'd say that Canada is very divisive on how it chooses to support and reflect its own art. There's the irony here is that throughout this whole year, there's been the push from America, and a lot of people have been like, "Oh, Canada first, Canada only." But you don't see people turning to Canadian art because Canadian art isn't as visible. There hasn't been a big draw towards being like, let's listen to Canadian musicians instead of American musicians. Let's watch Canadian movies instead of. That's what I think is so great about this project, is because this is something fiercely Canadian. Fringe is very Canadian. Most of the shows that are going to be presented at Toronto Fringe are from Canada. And it's one of the things that's so thoroughly grassroots, hometown. This is the culture. This is what we create. This is what we do. And it's just, this is one of those few venues that's fiercely and independently that.
That is really beautiful. Thank you for explaining that to me. And I'm curious too. I've seen that you've toured quite a bit with this show. Is that correct?
Well, I did. The world premiere for this show was in Orlando, and Toronto Fringe is actually going to be the Canadian premiere of this new version of the show. So technically, this is the world premiere of a Canadian Explains Eurovision to other Canadians, because now it's not American. So this is technically a world premiere. It's the same show, but different.
That is so exciting. And what kind of value does that bring to your own performance? Does that excite you more that this is now a world premiere in Canada?
I will say the show has changed drastically from what I was able to present in Orlando. Orlando's a lovely Fringe. It's one that I've gone to. It's one that I love dearly. So many great people there. But doing it here, because the venue's different, I was offered a bigger opportunity, a bigger space. I took full advantage of that. So I've blown the show up. So it's bigger, better, gayer, more. It's just bigger, and I'm very excited to share this new version of it, because it's just taken everything that I started and then just elevated it 20%. So it's great.
So bigger is better.
Bigger is always better. I mean, that's what Canada stands for, right? We got a lot of land. We don't know what to do with it, but it's bigger, so therefore it's better.
If you could do something with Canada's land, what would you do?
I would make more theme parks.
What kind of theme parks? Like,
why not Theaterland? We'll do have someplace that's like nice and artistic and good for that. But also, like, we have so much land. I think we should just leave most of it alone because, lungs of the planet.
Lungs of the planet. That should be a new tagline for you. Lungs of the planet.
The next show.
Next show will be Lungs of the Planet. In your bio, you call yourself a fringe performer.
Yes.
What's the difference between a fringe performer and a performer?
We're more broke.
Back to the funding.
Always. It's always about money. Everything's always about. You can't be an artist in today's day and age and not talk about it. Most people don't. Most people are very shy to talk about money. And I'm just like, no, it's funny, it's silly, but it's also real, because funding is integral and it's something that needs to happen. And the more people, as much as it's ha ha ha, or at the same time, just like, you know what? It is something that needs to be valued. It's something that needs to be protected. So, double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword. And now I'm asking everyone this question as our final question. What do you want to do with your life?
I'd love to bring Eurovision more to Canada, or create a similar contest to that represents smaller performers, showcases them, gets them out there, gives them exposure, and really tries to elevate words of peace and tolerance and equality. I feel like that would be really cool to see in Canada. Do I think that Eurovision has the potential to be that future? Yes. I think that it has all the potential in the world to be there. It just needs to start figuring out what it wants to be. But I also think that Canada and Toronto especially needs to figure out what it wants to be. Until we do that, we'll never get the things that we know we can't do. But I would like to be a part of that movement I want to push things forward because I'm tired of people trying to go back.
That is wonderful. That is just beautiful. Is there anything else our viewers should know about your show before we close off this interview?
Right. My first show is a Pay What You Can show, and I'm super excited to share it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I am so excited, too, to learn what the heck Eurovision is, and as I explore what the heck Canadian theater is. This is Daphne St. Clair, signing off.
Watch the next video. It's pretty cool.
My name is Daphne St. Clair.
My name is Daphne St. Clair. Thanks for watching. Watch the next video. It's pretty cool. Watch the next video. My name is Daphne St. Clair. My name is Daphne St. Clair. Watch the next video.